Hi guys, I hope you are doing well. I have another communal pot here of Conophytum that I had poked all in to root. Some of them were cuttings, some of them just had some, were just pieces of clusters that had some roots but not really well. And so I put them all together here, as you can see, and in just pure pumice, and have been babying them. But it's time for them to come out and check their roots and go into their own pots, hopefully, or else be made into cuttings or whatever else needs to happen if their roots are not growing. So I'm just gonna pick a place and start with this guy. It looks a little bit shriveled, as you can see here, and it does have some new root growth actually right here and here. These are fresh, but most of them are dead. I am going to give this guy a little trim on these dead roots because they're just dead weight at this point anyways. They're not going to revive. Sorry, I'm kind of doing this out of camera here, but I'm avoiding the new root growth. So this guy I am actually going to soak in a vitamin B1 solution for half an hour or an hour, maybe a little bit longer because this guy's nice and shriveled. And he will go probably back into a communal pot to be babied a little bit longer. I think I'm not going to do cuttings out of him because he does have root growth, new root growth happening. Just not as much as he should. So we're going to put him in a lovely little bowl with his tag to soak. Alrighty, this guy here is, you've seen in other videos, anytime it's attached to the pumice doesn't fall off from the roots. That's a great sign. Pumice is extremely porous. It has just lots of very, very tiny bubbles in it. It actually will float. That's how porous it is. Not as easily as perlite, which is why I like it better, but it does float. Eventually the little air cells that are inside of it get broken down enough over time that it doesn't float anymore. But that's its natural pattern. And so while this guy isn't super amazing as far as the amount of roots, he's still doing quite well. And I may give him a little bath in a B1 solution also, just because it's not going to hurt before I pot him up. So I'm not going to pot him up directly either. I like their roots to be pretty happy before I do too much. And in the future, I will do better to date my my plants. These all have been dated. The last pot I did weren't, but these all were potted up here communally from wherever and whatever situation they were in on November the 17th. And right now it is, I believe, the second week of January. And so that gives you a little bit of an idea. A couple months it's been rooting up. This guy has really good new root growth too, but not enough. And so part of that is because this was pure pumice and I have been so sick I haven't been watering them nearly as much as they really need to be watered to grow and thrive as much as they want to this time of year, because this is their active growth period. So that one is going to have a little bath also before I pot it up. These may all be headed to a bath or a soaking of some variety. All right, this guy doesn't have much new root growth, but it does have some good pieces of pumice attached, which tells me there has been some progress, which is fantastic, but not overwhelmingly exciting yet with their root growth. All right, another one. These look to be about all in the same phase of development. These guys were pretty stressed after shipping. This guy looks like he is detaching. Yeah, this head here is detached, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. You can see it's just all dried up there. I'll go ahead and give him a little soak and plant him in with the cuttings, but I think this guy's a goner. This stem seems pretty old here, and so we shall see. But the rest of these heads are attached well and look great. So yay, this guy actually has enough new growth that I am going to go ahead and put him in a pot of his own. And the mixture that I'm using here is a lot of pumice also, but it has some other things that will hold a bit more water than just the pure pumice, which is what it needs. It needs some more moisture to get its roots going and its leaves plumped out. There we go. Set him aside. These guys are doing well. Again, not really big. If you've seen my other, the one that I did just a few days ago, the other large pot that I potted up, it had another month, I want to say, on this one that it had been rooting. I'm not exactly 100% positive on my timelines because those didn't have dates on them, but at least another month older than these guys. And almost all of the previous ones were larger, slightly larger varieties, and some of them grow a little bit faster. Some of them don't, but and there we go. He's going to get a great soak, again with vitamin B1. All right, let's have a look at this single little head right here and see how he's doing. All right, he's doing fantastic. So you can see this is one little head, and he has rooted better than a lot of the clusters. Look at that lovely little root system on that. So he is going to go in one of these pots too, and I am not using terracotta once these guys are rooted because they just dry out too fast for these guys. So I use plastic, or am using plastic once they get a bit settled. Some of my larger clusters do just fine in terracotta and it's not problematic, but I adjust the potting, the pot and medium, etc. to be in line with whatever I'm needing at the time, and in this case it is more water, so plastic is the way to go. And there's another one. All right, let's check out these two really small. You probably can't even see them, but I'll show you once I get them out here. Can't tell if this was a double head or just two. Looks like this guy was a little double head. This one is, you can see how tiny. I can't tell if the light is helping me or hindering me here. Sometimes it really glares, and other times it's better. Let me see if I can turn this not quite so direct. There we go. This guy is actually, I've never looked up the pronunciation on this guy, but there he is, and that is a great little root system. Oh wait, we have another one right here. This looks like a different variety. So this little guy here is another microscopic baby, but it looks like it's just kind of been sitting on top and hasn't any root growth. So I'm going to soak this guy in some solution also and see if I can revive him. I don't think it's the same variety as this guy here. This one has purple markings on top, which it's too small for you to see, and this one is, well, it could. It may be the same. It's a bit hard to tell at this age. I get asked a lot where to get these guys from. I haven't bought a whole lot from any place that you can get them from repeatably, if that makes sense. So the ones that I've gotten in the States have been from onesies and twosies. You know, a nursery just happened to have one, and as soon as I bought my first cluster from this nursery, they took it offline, and I've never had it again. And so I don't know if they just had a plant show up and or what. And other ones have been from individual growers that were just letting go a piece of their collection or something, and advertised in a closed group, you know, that, hey, I have these available, and I jumped on it. And then the rest of them I have either gotten from Facebook groups and just individuals, or else have ordered from overseas. You can see this guy just has a little root system. It is getting going. It's a little double-headed one here, but it's not very big, but it's big enough that I am going for a single or double little head, 2 little heads, that I'm going to go ahead and pot it in this mixture, which will hold a bit more water and help its roots grow better. And there are multiple places you can order them from here that I haven't tried yet, that I'm just seeing people posting pictures and stuff of various nurseries that are starting to carry them. I have no idea on prices or anything like that, but the places that I have gotten them from overseas, one of them, the main one, is from Germany, and they have a lot of different varieties of messemes, and I just went blank on the name of the place. It'll come back to me in just a second. All right, this guy is just a single head, as you can see, but he's got a lovely little root cluster around the pumice there. I am going to peel back this little paper sheath that's still got the remainders of it around here. And this may be out of camera just a bit, I don't know. So when it forms a little cup around the bottom sometimes, and water can pool in there and cause a little bit of rot. It's not necessary to take them off per se, but sometimes it is nice, especially when I know I'm going to be watering a little bit more, trying to get them established. If the husk is nice and dry, I just go ahead and very, very gently remove it. Cono's Paradise is the name of the overseas place that I was talking about in Germany. Cono is in Conophytum, but it's just shortened, so Cono's, C-O-N-O''S Paradise. Their stock changes all the time, so sometimes they'll have stuff, sometimes they won't. They don't have pictures of a lot of the varieties, but they have pictures of a lot of them also, just not all. About half and half, I would say, maybe a few less photos than half, but you can always look up photos and see if you're curious and don't know what the different varieties look like. Here we have a nice little root cluster on this guy, so I'm good to pot him up too. But you can check out their importing. You don't usually need anything really special. Certain plants you need an importing license for, and need to do some various things. I'm not sure the average person ordering, you know, 1 or 2 would need to do anything, but you should just double check. You could probably ask them if you need any kind of a certificate or anything to bring what you want into the States. It really depends on where you're shipping to. I'm mentioning this because not everyone is in the US either. And if you're over on that side of the world, where Germany's closer to you, this could be a great option. Just be sure and check with your current country laws and see if/what you need to import, the amount that you're trying to. Seeds in particular have some crazy restrictions. Well, they're not crazy, but you know, some more substantial restrictions on them, so just be aware of that if you're ordering things. Alrighty, this guy doesn't have so big of a root cluster, but there's a lot of white root hairs that are starting to emerge, like it's just really getting going, and with a little bit more moisture he's going to be great. I am going to put this guy in a slightly larger pot here, a little 3-inch. And I ran out of my potting mix. I gotta steal some of this and mix up a little bit more. Yeah, so there is a reason when people are reselling plants over here that they mark them up from what you can order them for overseas. There's multiple risks. There's always the risk of them being confiscated at the border as they're shipped over here, and then the shipping stress, etc., can cause die-off and whatnot. So there's definitely some risk involved in importing them. So if you're wondering whether to, sorry, I gotta keep this guy with his tag here. If you're wondering whether to import or just buy from someone you can find, it really depends on what you're looking for and what you know about the plants, as to whether I would say it would be a good experience or a bad experience. If you have extra money and don't mind them being stressed, you know, by all means, try importing if you want. Sorry, I'm getting distracted with trying to get my soil done here. But if you would like them to be a little bit more established and not be, which some people you need to talk to the grower, because some people just order from overseas and then turn right back around and resell them immediately, like I've talked about in other videos. Others keep them, help them recover from shock, and then only sell the good recovered stock after that. And that is definitely worth more money. I have gladly paid, you know, 5 or 6 times more for, even more than that, honestly, for a Conophytum cluster that was grown by a grower that I know here in the States, that I knew would be well established and rooted, as opposed to others that I've ordered for much less overseas. So even me, I definitely still order from individuals a fair amount because I find it worthwhile, even though I have a lot of sources for these guys overseas, etc., which not as many as I'm hoping to get eventually. I only have a few that I've really tried out lately because I've been so sick. So as I get well, I will be trying out more and letting you guys know. This guy has enough roots that I'm going to go ahead and pot him up to, using a slightly larger pot on this guy as well, because there's a lot more heads and a lot more to support for this root system. So it's likely that the root system will get a lot larger than it would if it was only a head or two. So give this guy a little bit of room to grow into. And his tag. Oops. Uh-oh. I forgot to give someone his tag, apparently. Well, this guy belongs to him, I know. I'm not sure where this other tag belonged. Ah, it's to these guys. I just scooted it over there. Sorry, my kitties are throwing. I got a little mouse and filled it with catnip. And they just threw it up here on my table. Alrighty, let's check out these guys. Which these two came to me unlabeled, so as just an extra little, they had a thing that you could order a mystery succulent, you know, in your order for cheap, and I knew it would be a Conophytum of some variety because that's what I was ordering. And these are the guys that were thrown in, so they didn't have a label. Actually, they had a little tag with their number, but it had multiple numbers, and none of them matched up with any of their stock, so I'm not sure if a random tag got thrown in with it or what. They come numbered, not with names, and then you have to match their numbers to their species. I am just removing gently this paper around the edges again before I repot these guys. And for 2 heads, this is a great amount of root growth in 2 months. These guys were just cuttings. And so they had a little bit of a woody stem on them, which I didn't cut off. And I was going to see if it actually was viable and growing roots, or if I needed to cut that off and treat them like row cuttings. But I had a feeling it was growing actual roots because the leaves are nice and plump, both of them. I've been doing, I go in spurts where I do, you know, more practical videos packed full of information about certain topics. And then when I just do a more casual potting video like this. And I am sorry if these get boring. If they're not your cup of tea, feel free to move right along. It won't offend me at all, but for people who are interested, it's fun. All right, the last cluster here. This guy had was a cutting, and it had a stem but no roots. It had this really woody stem that was about this long, so it was a cluster that was probably broken off of another cluster is my guess. And we got a rotten one here, which is never a good sign, so I'm just checking this out. I think he just died and was separated from the other guys and rotted, because none of the rest have any signs of rot so far, or even close to being overwatered. All right, just gotta get a few more of these little papers removed. Because they can hold water, like I said before. They're not hurting anything per se, they're just dried up. The dried up outer leaves from last year. But just since I'm going to be watering them a bit more, trying to get these roots going, just removing that there. Alrighty. These guys are a little bit, the heads tend to want to fall over when they're all attached, and you kind of have to wedge them with your potting medium, and it's a little bit more tedious. Sorry about this taking so long. To one side, and then I kind of pull the whole set of heads to the other side and add some more. Alrighty. And the last 2 little heads in this lovely little box. See how they're doing. Well, they do have some new root growth, as they're attached to, this one is particularly attached to a little piece of pumice, but not much. This guy isn't looking so spiffy, and this looks like one that I didn't trim the roots on when I planted it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now and just trim these guys up a little bit. I am going to go ahead and plant these. Usually these looking like this, I would soak them first, but with these guys, they're a little bit on the soft side. They're not super wrinkled, so I'm going to go ahead and let them keep doing their thing in the soil. And I just don't want to risk overdoing it with these guys. I took a few out a couple days ago and soaked a couple of their roots, and I thought these were one of them, but now that I see the root system, I'm not recognizing having seen it recently, so I'm not quite sure, but just in case I did soak them, I'm not going to do that again. I'll just give them a really good water with the B1 solution here. Alrighty, and that's another pot down. I am going to call that good for today. I will have more to do eventually, but for today that's good, and I will talk to you soon, and happy growing.